Guys, I'm how when I was a kid.
Oh, where's Eula? Where's Eula? Winner of the Christmas float, parade float, in attendance. All right. I will begin the joint meeting of the Stuart City Commission, Community Redevelopment Agency, and Community Redevelopment Board. Mary, would you call the roll?
Yes, Commission and CRA. Chair Collins,
Here.
Vice Chair Reed,
Here.
Board Member Clark,
Here.
Board Member Giobi,
Here.
Board Member Rich,
Here.
Board Member James,
Here.
Community Redevelopment Board Chair McChrystal,
Here.
Vice Chair Moser, here. Board Member DeBerard,
Here.
Board Member James,
Here.
Board Member Laughlin,
Here.
Board Member Manera, Board Member Whalen.
And we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, presentations. Item number 1.
Good evening, board members. For the record, my name is Jody Kugler, the Development Director for the City of Stuart. Tonight I'll be presenting a presentation, trying to walk you back about the formula business, which is located in the downtown area. This was requested to bring to this board for discussion and deliberation, possibly looking for some amendments through the City Commission. At the November 10th, 2025, the City Commission meeting, the Commission considered a major conditional use permit application for Tea and Spice. They were requesting exceptional use to allow a formula business within the formula business area. During the discussion, the City Commission expressed concerns regarding the 300-foot separation requirement within the city code, noting that the current regulations do not include a clear matrix or established criteria for granting such a waiver. As a result, the Commission requested further direction. Just to give you a little bit of background of what when the formula business was established, in 2005, the City Commission adopted ordinance number 2010-05, which defined formula businesses, established an area of the city within such businesses and may be permitted, and required approval through the major urban code conditional use process by the City Commission. The purpose of establishing a formula business district was to protect and preserve Stuart's small town charm by regulating the location of retail chain stores, including restaurants, within the city's downtown area. In 2005, when this was originally adopted, this was the boundaries for the formula business district area. As you can see, a lot of the Southeast Flagler and Colorado and Southwest Ocean Boulevard was incorporated by the downtown area, which is hatched out. And in 2023, when we adopted the Creek District North formula base, we did expand the boundaries, and as you can see outlined in blue, that is the new boundaries for a formula business. This just kind of gives you the overall what is a formula business, and this is the code section. This is the definition from our land development code, and it just says a formula business means a retail business established, including a restaurant, which is one or not less than 6 of the more similar establishment located elsewhere, which is a group satisfy 2 or more of the following criteria. So if you're looking to have a formula business, you have to satisfy one of the 2 criteria within the definition. Further in the code, it does provide a standard requirements for how to approve a special urban code conditional use. And this is like compatibility, your economics, your diversity, the size, the location, the elements of the structure, making sure it stays within harmony of the downtown area. So it does not look like a typical McDonald's downtown or any type of retail that would be considered a formula business. This is where the board has asked us, or the city commission has asked us to reevaluate. In our code section, there's additional requirements, and one is the distance. And this is the only thing out of the code it talks about, that the formula business shall not locate within 300 feet of an existing formula business in the old downtown district. So as you can see, if you want to have a formula-based business, you have to meet all the criteria for how it looks, how it functions, and the what they sell, and their signage, and the maximum size. But in our code section, we do not have a matrix or any type of analysis to determine what would be appropriate to be within 300 feet of another existing formula business. So that is something that the board is asking us to look at. So that's one of the things that we're looking for discussion and deliberation today. And that's the end of my presentation.
Jody, did you have an opportunity, or maybe you were just waiting for us to give you some guidance, to look at any other formula business zones and any other municipalities and some of the parameters that they use to, you don't want to say restrict it, but make sure it's appropriate?
Mayor Collins, I did not evaluate or look at other jurisdictions. That is something that we could, today's meeting, you could make that recommendation, and then staff will further look at different other places and how they evaluate or do their analysis for formula business.
Personally, I think that would be a good idea, so that there's more than just the 300 feet. It might be nice to have some other metrics. Otherwise, that code can look a little bit capricious, you know, on how we make that decision. Are there questions for Jody from board members? Or discussion? If you do, for the new members, if you have a comment, you know, one of these helps. Commissioner Giobbe.
Put my name right way, sorry.
Board member Giobbe.
I do have just a suggestion. Mount Dora is a comparable town to us. It's a little historic, downtown, kind of the same feel. Maybe that might be the first place you try and see if they have what their restrictions are on formula businesses. And maybe it would be as simple as saying formula businesses not within 300 feet of each other, like two restaurants. If you have one type of formula business and it's 300 feet within a restaurant, one a clothing store, one a restaurant, they certainly would be competitive to each other at all. So I don't know what the original thoughts were on keeping them more than 300 feet apart. Does anyone have the answer to that? Why they originally said to be not, you know, they have to be more than 300 feet apart?
So Commissioner Giobbe, if I may answer your question, when the formula business was created in 2005, it looks like that was always a standard. It looks like they adopted it from another location in North Florida. So I think that that's just to show some distance requirements, so they're not side by side.
Okay. Thank you, Jody.
I think it's important to, my concern is when we've just approved one at 0 feet, you know, from the nearest formula business, clearly there's some kind of metric that we're not articulating that makes a difference between one and the other. So having something measurable, you know, would be a good idea. Board Member McChrystal.
From 30,000 feet, out into the future, as US 1 becomes more and more untenable, and you don't even want to go there, east of the railroad tracks, or east of US 1, east of A1A, in simple terms, I want me a Popeyes. In a broader sense, I would like to see, if you're going to divide the town into sections, like the CRA, the non-CRA, downtown, non-downtown. Hey, let's find some place east of US 1 and east of the tracks that might serve some of the not so finest of people. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Board Member Mosey?
I would just recommend if we do take a look at other cities' codes. I think Winter Garden's another good example that we could look at, and I know that they are very committed to preserving their downtown in the same way I think that we in Stuart are in terms of the character. So, be a good one.
Winter Garden?
Winter
Oh, Winter
Garden,
Gardens, thank you.
the downtown, not the whole city.
I just wanted to get some clarity. Are we asking the board to help us to define, and you use the word matrix, that we can restrict formula businesses from coming into the Stewart area?
When you look at our code right now, it came up when we were discussing, the only measurable restriction on formula business is a 300-foot distance. So it appears that we just approved one that was within 300 feet, so it's worth discussion, from other board members. What is it about then a formula business that makes it appropriate or not, if it's not the square feet or the feet from one to the other? There's something there that should be measurable. Otherwise, it potentially, I think, could be challenged when you put one at 0 feet. We need to really define what it is about formula business that makes it appropriate or not for downtown.
I think the biggest question would be the language that you're using to define what, the code says what they had to meet certain criteria to become a formula business or to define them as a formula business. So that's already been established from what I can understand. So we're looking for
What a
more
formula
restrictions.
business is defined in our code. What is not defined is why we would make an exception for one.
That
So
cleared it up.
that's sort of what we're looking at, is what makes it an appropriate exception or not.
Thank you.
Board
I
Member
was-
Clark. Yes.
Thank you for recognizing, Mayor. Ms.
You got another one?
Jody Kugler.
Yeah.
Could you, okay, yeah, you did put it up there already. You're a genius.
Mind reader.
So you put it back up there again. So that's our definition right now. And is there any other part in the code other than, that's the definition, they meet 2 or more of the criteria, but at least 2. And then in order not to make it look like a Disney World of something,
Right.
of similars or whatever, we put the difference so that we can still have other people, but still have these other businesses interspersed. And the exception is always up to us, whether it's 1 feet apart or 200 or 150. We always have that opportunity to deal with the person who comes in. And you're saying that you want to have some hard and fast guidelines to say why it should be 100 feet apart or 0 feet apart if somebody wants to meet that exception under that the distance apart thing. And I think that's why it's so special when we have to consider as a city commission that we can say, yes, there is a rule that says have them 300 feet apart, but in this case, we would like to still have this business in our downtown area because it's complements, it's compatible, it fits whatever. Let's say it's going to be close to the Lyric and they do this type of thing and it matches that. It's going to put out ballet shoes for everybody, whatever what is happening. And so we can have that choice to say, yes, we know that there's another formula business. It may be the tea place. This is a ballet type thing that's specialty oriented, but they're both formula business. But because they're not going to be conflicting and it's not going to affect the small town charm, we can allow for it to be there. And that's how the exception falls in. I think we always have to have ways to make those type of decisions because unless you wanted, if we want to do something that says, okay, well, maybe we change it from 300 feet to, let's say, 100 or 200, and then that's it. We won't, they just have to meet that criteria, and we won't have to do the distance exception thing. They have to meet that's the distance, and that's it. But we you know, I think that it's good to have the ability to say we can agree to an exception based on the fact, same thing that we do for land use changes, whether it's complementary, it's
But how would you
it meets the
define?
goal, it meets the goal of our downtown area to keep the small charm. It's all the, yeah.
Right now, the only metric, the only true, you can't get out of is the 300 feet. All of those
Except
other.
we give it.
Do you mind putting that list back up? I don't know if it includes 300 feet as well,
It did.
but
Size of the business shall not exceed.
Mayor Collins, this is the first set of standards, and then you go into the other portion of the code that's after this, and this right here is your distance requirements. As you can see, there's no metrics or any type of measurable. It just says within 300 feet.
Maybe we should go over the list of exceptions. And
but for, I'm not saying make it less than that. What I'm saying is, and I'm not really advocating for this, but the discussion around this was the only measurable that you have is 300 feet. Everything else, if you go back to that other list, Jody, is subjective. Does this alter the identity of the urban district in a way which detracts from its uniqueness? Does this business contribute to a diverse and appropriate blend of businesses in the urban districts? Does this business, some of these need to be, you need more of a measurable bastion than just the 300 feet, especially when you're going to make a waiver for that, and in fact put one down next door at 0 feet. So I think unless we're going to become more lax with formula business, if we want to be able to have something that's defendable, what is it that we want to see out of a formula business that we would make an exception for it? If, something more definable. The 300 feet is really your only metric right now. Sorry. Board Member Reed.
Yeah, I think the best metric we could have is just the elected officials. So like, Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, regardless of what we put in our land development code, the applicant is entitled to come in front of the board regardless of what our land development code says? For an exception?
Vice Mayor Reed, so the way that it's set up is that you have to go through a special urban code conditional use, and you can waive certain options and some of these standards within that urban code conditional use, including the 300-foot radius.
What standards can't be waived currently in the formula business?
They would be all be able to be waived the way it's written today.
Correct. So we just need good elected officials then, with good moral compasses to keep them out of downtown.
My point is if you get sued.
you want to keep formula businesses out of downtown?
Formula, yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone wants the big chains in downtown Stuart. That's why it exists currently.
Formula businesses are usually not big chains.
Board Member
That's
McChrystal.
why we have them. That's why we try to encourage them.
Encourage formula business?
They're small businesses, they're,
I don't think we encourage it.
well,
I thought,
They have to come before us for an exception, so we're already putting stopgaps on what is allowed and what isn't to keep that downtown unique. Oh, sorry.
that's all right. So I thought formula businesses were the evil chain stores, big national products. No?
big,
Am I wrong about that? Right.
we're not having,
So there's different levels of formula. Okay, so
we,
I just thought, so everything outside of the downtown district then, so maybe I got this wrong. So is it just the marketplace that's determining like the East Ocean area on the way out to the beach, is it the marketplace that's determining a lack of a so-called affordable grocery store or a few more fast food joints? So they are allowed outside of the downtown district. Is that what we're saying?
Right, there's a formula business area where
Okay.
it's excluded.
Yep.
And that would be outside of that zone.
And so we're just, again, talking about downtown district? And trying to
only
make it,
place that exclusion area exists is within this region.
right.
You want to put that map up, Jody, for Frank? The actual map of
All
the
right, thank you.
business exclude, there you go, Frank. That's where they're not allowed.
Yeah. I got
Board Member DeBerard. Grab that mic. He's got his own right there.
Yeah, they're wireless, perfect.
Yeah. It's blinking.
Flashing red and green, you say.
Mac, the thing.
I got one here.
It's green.
There we go. All right. As far as the basis for 300 feet versus 299 feet, this language came from somewhere. This was pulled from a town in North Florida.
Nice.
The first question would be which town and what was their reasoning for this. And then as for it being arbitrary, I don't think so much the issue is arbitrary, it's just evenly enforced. At some point, there has to be a decision, okay, we're not going to have one more of X or two more of X. Somebody has to come up with an argument for that. It doesn't have to be, something that is based on Hammurabi's code, but there has to be, discussion about it and a decision made and a line drawn. And the flexibility is that they can come before the commission and ask for a waiver. As far as putting everything into hard language, I think that's going to be difficult. But I could be swayed by that. And there might be some very well-reasoned addenda to Winter Park's argument for this as to why. But at this point, it seems to be, why is the rule the rule? If there's the ability to get around it with a waiver, why does it need to be changed?
Not changing the 300. I think everybody here is happy with that. The idea would be having more 300s. So if there's other lines, what are those lines?
And has there been any proposals for additional 1 through 6s or 6 subsection A through E?
That's what we're talking about now,
But no proposals per se as of this point?
sir. It's good you're here.
Mr. Mayor, I hope that I don't want anybody to misconstrue. We definitely don't want big box formula businesses downtown, and that's why we want to keep the small town charm, so that if somebody comes in, like a part of a chain store that we've had with the tea shop and other things, we have to look at those criteria and see if they fit in our mode, and if that's what we can allow to have. This idea of whether or not it's an arbitrary thing to have it 200 feet away or 300 feet away, if you want to research why that has been put in there, I think at the time people thought it was a reasonable distance with the way storefronts are set out, and so that you wouldn't have them two quote-unquote big box names. Although we've worked very hard, even though they're places that have a clothing line or a tea line or something, we still, when we look at those other the criteria that Ms. Kugler put up, we pick the ones that we have the ultimate decision to pick the ones that will meet with our small town charm and will fit within our criteria. And I know that your concern is that when we went beyond, when we had two close together instead of the 300 feet apart, when do we make that exception and why do we make that exception?
Right.
And I see that if you want to just say we'll never ever do it, but again, that's a part of this decision-making process, is the type that comes in, and if it's just too big boxy, I think we've said, you know, like, I'm not gonna call brand names, but they're stars and all. And we've said that we're, you know, we weren't gonna have something like that in downtown, and we've lived by that because we have, just as Commissioner Reed said, we have the ability to make that decision when we're here. We can talk to the applicant and let the applicant know why something is being denied and, or being accepted if we're going to give an exception for, because of the what's happening in downtown and what the available lease space is, and it happens to be closer to another business. But sometimes these places are so quaint that you don't even consider some of them as we know what they are, that they're formula business, but you know, a tea place is not gonna look like, you know, a Walmart. It's not like we're having a Walmart there. I'm sorry, I called a Walmart name. If I'm gonna get in trouble.
It's a big box. You're not gonna get
A big box.
Are there any other comments from board members for Jody? Yes.
Yeah, just let's be clear, we do have formula businesses in the downtown. Kilwins is a formula business. The Monkey was a formula business. Duffy's is a formula business. So that's not the question we're deciding. I know politicians are always looking for an excuse for the decisions they make. And, oh, you know, this was the rule and we had to adhere to it. But I cannot think of a, so this was put into place in 2005. It's 21 years later. Has any industry been more dramatically impacted by technology than retail and the challenges these stores face? And I think we're going to need a way going forward to be more accommodating, not less accommodating. I think the restrictions on storefront size serve us very well in keeping out Walmart and Popeyes, and they're not going to come in here, and the manner in which food is served too. But yeah, we are in the position where we have to make these difficult decisions going forward, and that's just our responsibility.
All right, any other comments? Mr. McChrystal?
Thank you. So could you say that, in a way, the quote politicians are actually trying to kind of put the thumb on the character of the downtown area as far as what can and not come in there? I mean, let's just say that tea company was a tattoo parlor. Are there ways to prevent tattoo parlors? Would we want to prevent a tattoo parlor? Are the existing businesses going to have a say in what comes in around them? You know, it's just, when I walk around downtown, I don't know, it seems like we're definitely trying to cater to a certain group of people. And if that's what we're trying to do, then that's what we're trying to do.
Last comment.
It's okay. That's why we're here to talk.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Reed that I've sat in the meetings where a company came in and asked for special privilege, and they were shot down. But ultimately, the commissioners had the final say. Mm-hmm. Whatever you have in place, I don't think there would be a legal issue because we elected you guys to represent us to say in the language that we couldn't say at the time. And so I agree with him that what we need in place is already in place.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think to go along that comment and maybe what Board Member DeBerard said, do we really want Hammurabi's Code? And maybe this is a question for Lee. If you go too specific, does that kind of put you in a box? So if you do deny somebody, does that open you up for a lawsuit? I think the way they are right now is kind of broad, open-ended. So are you better off with a more open-ended type of structure? Because I kind of like the framework that we have, is my personal opinion, because there are ways to say, yeah, no, we can, no, you're going to be competitive here. You don't complement other stores. We don't really think you're a good fit, which then opens up, they could then maybe bring lawsuits. But anyway, go ahead, Mr. Baggett.
Sure, Mayor.
Sure.
I think they purposely had it brought for, as you suggested, to leave it up to the commission and the CRB's recommendation prior to going for the commission. They provided enough detail in there, like the business can't exceed 1,500 square feet. That's pretty small. You're not going to have a large business come in and only have 1,500 square feet. I'm trying to picture what that would look like compared to this room, but in my mind, that's small. The street frontage also only can be 35 feet. So they have some specifics, but they've left a lot open. I think and no drive-through windows. I mean, that's pretty clear. That'll eliminate a lot of the bigger franchises as far as restaurants. So there are some specific examples that give clear direction, and then there's some not so specific that kind of leaves it up to the commission, whoever that might be at the time. It seems to me that the crux is on the 300 feet existing distance. When the board enacted this by ordinance in '05, I believe they already had 2 or 3 formula businesses that violated the code, and they already grandfathered them in. So at the start, we already had more than one within 300 feet of each other. I mean, I think Commissioner Giobbe brought up, well, maybe we could add no formula business of the same kind, like 2 restaurants can't be 300 feet, but a tea and spice place and a restaurant could be 300 feet. Maybe that's what you guys are suggesting. I think there was a concern, if I recall, when the tea and spice, when do we say that's enough? So maybe you could have a maximum of formula businesses. Yeah, I'm talking policy now, not legal, but you guys asked me. But I think we have a alcohol saturation rate. So the purpose of that is so that we don't have 50 bars lined up in downtown, and it's worked. I mean, there's only so many places that can serve alcohol in downtown.
Right.
So maybe you can have a similar restriction on how many formula businesses, because we don't have that in there now. It says no more than 2, really. And we started off violating. So maybe you could have that final number. I think we have 4 now. But there was,
Well, Monkeys is gone.
right, so maybe we're back down to 3.
Hoffman's is a formula.
Right, so 4, I guess.
But Hoffman's is no longer Hoffman's. Is that new signature ice cream place a formula place? I don't think so.
Hoffman's is a chain.
Kilwins is. Yeah.
Hillwin's is.
Gilman's
I think that's a great point.
So I don't know, maybe you can,
Clothing places.
maybe you can make some distinctions like Commissioner Giobbe brought up, or you can add no more than 6 formula businesses, regardless of what they are. I'm just I'm spitballing, but that's policy, not legal.
Thank you.
Sure.
That is the point I was trying to get to, is defining a sentiment. If you say there's these formula businesses are too close together, what does that mean? Right? It's not really defendable. But if you say 300 feet, now you have a definable thing. And saturation's another great point. I thank you for that. Any other comments?
I think looking at tight each other, I think that distance is important, but also the type of business. You could still have them closer.
That seems a little dangerous, right? If you're
Right, 'cause you've got
saying
2
no to a
restaurants.
type of a business, doesn't that start to get
Do
into?
we limit,
Right, well, I guess give me an example.
you were saying don't have two restaurants together, but you could have a restaurant and a tea
Right.
store, a restaurant and a bookstore.
Oh,
No competitive type.
no 2 formula businesses of the same type.
Right.
I mean, you're actually lessening restrictions. Right now it says no 2 formula businesses.
Right.
You can
Right.
have a candy store and a coffee shop,
Right.
that are, right now the code says not within 300 feet of it.
Right.
But you could lessen that and say no 2 formula businesses that are restaurants can be within.
And you would
Yeah.
still have a cap on how many formula restaurants,
Yeah.
how many formula businesses in the city. I mean, not in the city, in
Right.
downtown.
And again, this is policy, not legal. You're trying to come up with restrictions.
let Jody give us some look back at that original thing that, and I think, was it Board Member McChrystal, or maybe it was, no, I think it was Commissioner Rich, who said that businesses, formula businesses are going through a lot of changes in their marketing and other things, and some of them are changing their way to fit into a downtown setting so that they can market things, such as that the clothing store that we've had now for probably 12 or 13 years.
Board Member Gioba, did you have a comment?
I wanted to say too that Board Member Mosher made a good suggestion. Let's compare to other cities. Winter Park, Outdoor, that information is coming back to us at some point. Thank you, Jody. What I didn't know is, would I be able to bring up 2 items that are not on the CRA, CRB agenda that pertain to the CRA?
We're going to have comments by board members in a second after this.
On the comments, thank you.
Jody, did you want any other clarification from us?
Mayor Collins, no, that gives me a lot of clarification. So I guess my other question is, do I bring it back to this joint meeting again as a group? Would you like to see that?
Yes, I think that would be good.
And I'll give staff some time to research and give you some of the other jurisdictions of what they're doing.
Thank you, Jody. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
Move approval of the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get an approval of the minutes? Do you want 2 separate items?
Yes, please.
Okay. So CRA, CRB,
Move approval
CCM.
of the minutes on 10/27/2025, joint CRA, CRB, and CCM minutes.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Would you like an all in favor, or would you like a
All
roll
in
call?
favor is
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And for item 3, do I have a motion to approve the CRA minutes for 11/24/2025?
I'll make a motion to approve the 11/24/2025 CRA minutes.
Do I have a second on the CRA?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Comments from the public on non-agenda related items. Clay, you got anything? Mark?
I do have,
Okay. All right.
I do have one.
Is the formula business district an agenda item or a?
That was just a discussion presentation. But feel free, man. You're welcome to talk about whatever you want. Yeah, whatever.
So the advantage of being old is I was at the meeting in 2005 where we were discussing this, but so I kind of remember some of the history. And if you remember economically in 2005, we're almost at the same place we were now. Market was starting to take off. Downtown was starting to become very popular. And for a downtown like ours, department stores are the anchors for malls. Restaurants and bars are the anchors for downtowns, small downtowns. And the concern was, and that's why the 300 feet is in there, I think, it's the same language we use in the code for how far apart a bar has to be from a church or a school or something. I think it's 300 feet door to door. So what happened is we were trying to avoid another Clematis Street. And it was a divided discussion because there were some like Boyd Bradfield who says, we don't need any, the market will take care of itself. And there were others that wanted to continue what we were doing, which is basically just discouraging those businesses or making it hard for them to come in. And then this lawsuit took place, which was up in northern Florida someplace. And they made an adjustment because they were basically challenged. And I think that a lot of our language comes out of that lawsuit so that we felt that language was safe. But anyway, that's just some history so that maybe it gives some presence there. It was a concern about Clematis Street was really one of the big issues. And then, I always kept saying Victoria's Secrets was going to come in, and Boyd said there's no way. And so anyway, but I just, I do say that I do think that right now we're at that point where the businesses that are coming in are businesses that have to be able to pay a lot of money. Yeah. And along Frank's line, you're going to get certain people that shop at those stores. You've got certain clientele. and the local business that's existing here is going to get frozen out. So whatever we do, hopefully we can keep, because there's more, like Oak and Ember is in a formula business now. He's got multiple locations, 2 Oak and Ember locations. So, there's a lot of those types of things that just creep in. Signature Sweets, I think, is a formula business. So anyway, I just think it's something that we have to do to protect the local businesses.
Mm-hmm. Any other public comments? Okay, comments from board members on non-agenda items.
Sorry.
Board member Giobbi.
Yes, and I just got to bring this up. Recently, the CRA posted their annual, I believe it's annual, where there's a matched program for businesses to be able, let me just bring it up, I want to read it correctly, sorry. There it is. The Business Improvement Grant Program, which are federal funds, and they should, I think this is a great program. The problem I have is that this is great, but someone has to be able to match the $10,000. We have a lot of really smaller businesses that could really utilize this program, and maybe they can get the grant just based on their need. Maybe there's a criteria on what their net expenses are. Somebody who really does finances would have to really look into that. But I think that those opportunities, or a very small amount of, not a match, but basically they'd have to maybe provide $500 toward a $10,000 or $15,000 grant that would help them to improve their businesses. Because they're dealing with the same thing that even the larger small businesses are. There's rents have increased in downtown. Maybe business has slid off a little where people are watching their pennies and not spending as much as they did last year or the year before. And so they need a little, hand up and a help up. And maybe that's something that the CRA could do for them. And that would be appreciated. Let me just get to the other. Okay, well, I can't find it, so I'll have to pass on to the next person. Thank you.
So for clarification, you're saying you would review the finances of the business to determine if they might be eligible for no
a minimal amount
match?
or no match or a minimal match. And the cost, the repair, the improvement might be less. That's something that the numbers people need to work out. I just think that it would give a hand up to the smaller businesses that are, maybe struggling more than the mid-sized business in downtown that has a better clientele coming in, retail, and their income is better, and they're all equally sharing in this huge increase in rent over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other item I wanted to bring up, and I'd like to see if Mark would like to speak to this since he's brought it up at many CRA meetings. We really need to do something about Confusion Corner. And it is in the CRA district. There has to be a way. I mean, I've seen people either think they're turning onto Southeast Ocean, they're turning onto the tracks. Right. And, they're not yielding correctly. It's just really dangerous. And I think, everyone who lives here knows how to maneuver Confusion Corner, but the people who visit don't. And so maybe we need gates, maybe we need better signage, but we need something. And I think that the CRA has talked about it, Mark, I don't know, over the last 2-3 years. And we keep talking about it, but I think we need to actually come to fruition and make a plan and implement it. Thank you.
During Commissioner comments.
I think
What, comments.
Hang tight. Hang
I
tight.
thought Laura, okay,
No.
never mind.
Hang tight.
Sorry.
Well, I just wanted Mark to fill out a green, if he could talk about it, because he's the one who, over the last couple of years, has brought it up at many meetings, and nothing has ever happened.
Board member Moser.
I wasn't going to talk about Confusion Corner, but I looked at that intersection for years and years when my kids were playing on the playground at Kiwanis. And a couple years back, I did show a concept to Commissioner Rich and the former city manager. I think it certainly is a very unsafe intersection, even when you know it. Sometimes when you're in the middle of the roundabout and you've got to yield for the cars coming over the tracks, you can't tell how fast people are going. So even for us locals, it's a bit dangerous. And I think the trouble with that intersection when they had to redo it is that we were just trying to please too many people. and a simplification of it would be amazing. I think it would make it way safer. It would function better 99% of the time, maybe not when the trains are going over the tracks, but that's 30, 40 minutes of the day. I'd be happy to email you all my concept.
I would like to hear them. I think safety should certainly be the priority, not everyone else's concept of what Confusion Corner should be.
Yeah. Two things I wanted to bring up. I brought this up at our CRB meeting, but you all are the decision makers, so I wanted you to hear it. We had the child get hit on MLK in the crosswalk. I can't remember if it was November or December. And obviously we've got the redesign of that street coming down the pipe in a few years, but I really would like to see something done before that happens while we're waiting for the street to be redesigned. If that's raising the crosswalks or, any sort of RFB flashing, something that the kids can push when they're crossing the street. That's up to you all to make the decision of what that is, but I think like a temporary interim measure would go a long way, because even before that happened, we've had people coming into meetings making comments about how dangerous it is for the kids, and they've got to be on that street. They've got to cross that street to get to Boys and Girls Club to the middle school. So please consider doing something about that. And the last thing I wanted to bring up, I was super excited to see those one-on-one meetings with you all a week or two ago, and to hear what some of your agendas were for the year, what you're hoping to accomplish. The one that I lost sleep over in excitement was what's going to happen to this site. Obviously, you all have seen what Duani proposed. You've seen the Stuart Main Street concept. Those are both a bit building heavy, I would say. I certainly have ideas, and I thank you for putting out that survey. I don't know if it was Stuart Main Street or the city, Main Street, that put out the survey for folks to answer about what they want to see happen. But I just wanted to share a couple thoughts about it. We've got 26 parking spaces here, 42 there, and then 37 at the waterfront. If I look at those from a transportation point of view, the way they're kind of laid out is pretty inefficient in terms of the space. If you did extend if you extended Osceola Street, even just up to the waterfront, and put parking on both sides of that street, you could make up for the parking just that by itself. Just want to go over a couple things about it. I would love to see downtown become more family friendly and more affordable for not just, the people who can afford to eat at some of our lovely restaurants downtown, but that I can't take my kids somewhere where we're all eating a $40 meal each. So something to think about when we're thinking about all this space we've got downtown. I'd love to see a central green. We are a historic downtown. That is a historic use, is to have, a town green where people can gather, where there's seating. I'd love to see a feature where kids can play. I would love to see the space be usable for all ages. So a lot of times when I say family friendly, people think, oh, we need to have a playground, slides. But, kids like running on seat walls, like climbing on rocks. We've got some grate over here that they could play with. If we really use our imaginations and, hire designers, not my company, hire designers to imagine how awesome this space could be. I know there was talk about whether or not a parking garage could happen here. I talked to, I can't remember if it was the city landscape architect in downtown Winter Garden a couple of years ago when I did a tour of the city. And they have, it's a 3-deck parking garage, but it only looks 2 stories. And I asked her, thinking about Stuart, when did you decide it was time to put in a parking garage? And she said, when our businesses started complaining about losing business because people couldn't find parking. I'm not like a big advocate of parking garages all the time, because a lot of times people want them, they put them in, and then nobody uses them. People still just want to park right in front of the business that they're going to. But I think, it might finally be the time that Stuart does need to think about a parking garage. I went in AutoCAD and just measured to see if one could fit here. And we can fit a smaller parking garage on this site while also having a green space and, some sort of potential water feature.
But then if you extend Osceola, you mean for commercial as well? You'd be looking at a parking garage.
Yeah, I wouldn't do parking garage mixed. You mean a building with like retail in the bottom and parking on top?
No, if you're extending
Yeah.
out Osceola, and I'm presuming that you're putting commercial there, it
I
would
think
be
it's
right
a
in front of that
toss-up.
garage.
Either you put in the parking garage and you'd have a little bit of room for retail along the edge, or you have one or two store retail. I think some of those older concepts look kind of scary because those were big hotels and really dense.
Yeah.
I think if we have one or two stories that matches what we've got over there, and that could be good. I work in public space, so I haven't thought through that yet. The one retail, I guess, thing that I am thinking about and going along the lines of the family friendly is I've seen this in a lot of cities that are revitalizing that maybe are not as fortunate as Stuart, that have had a hard time for a long time, is small business incubator space, or sort of like that food hall that you see. Maybe this site right here becomes a bunch of, it could be food trucks, it could be the back of the semi-trailers now. I'm sorry, I have a cold, so.
More like a kiosk, you mean, where they would be individually?
Kind of. I mean, something that makes it easy for a more affordable sandwich shop, or, something that's cheap and easy, fast casual. I can come here and I can get a sandwich with my kids, or tacos with my kids, and then we all go sit on the line.
The green space, yeah.
On the green space. I just keep thinking about, like, it's been mentioned a couple times here tonight, our downtown is lovely, but it's expensive.
An arcade.
Square.
Well, it could be a food arcade.
Yeah, something.
haven't
I have, like, I'll send you in a good long email here once I get it all pulled together, but I've got inspiration images of just some ideas for you all to noodle on. I would love for this space, if we're gonna do something with it, for it to be a place that everybody can use, no matter how old you are or what you can afford. Yeah, thank you. Oh, one more. Sorry, I'm sorry, Frank. There is an example in Orlando called East End Market. I think the guy's dad was a developer, but he wanted to be a farmer, and so he bought an old church, and he turned it into a market space, and it was all these little stalls. And some of those stalls have been there for the last 15 years. There's like a cheese shop, a sushi place. There are a couple farmers that sell in the market, and they've stayed there the whole time. But the other ones that wanted to grow and were really successful, they moved on to like bigger retail spaces once they could. So
Large cities have them also. You have Pike's Market in Seattle. Same thing, you walk into this market, but in there are different sandwich shops or whatever. Philadelphia has the same thing right now. The name of the entity in Philadelphia eludes me, but the same thing, you walk in, you can have pizza, you could have a sandwich,
yes,
have
there are
hot dog on a
a
bun,
ton of
kind of
those along the Beltline now in Atlanta too. That you can. I'm sorry.
No. Bonnie, thank you for the trigger. I remember when my wife and I could afford our first house, and I had to do the sales job of a little cracker box in Stuart versus a McMansion type thing in Port St. Lucie at about the same price. And luckily, she decided the one prerequisite, she had to be within a mile of where she worked. I'm like, oh, right, cool. We don't have to go through that. And I remember coming here to this place right here for the first time back in 1987 and going, whoa, where do I live? I had no idea. There was such a sense of pride when I first came to this city hall the location of it, and for our forefathers to decide we're badass and this is where our city hall is going to go. And I still have that sense of pride. And I think we're supposed to be this great special place. As far as we the people, okay, if there's one place that the whole city can have pride in, I think it's this place. And I think, call me regressive, call me the, what's that term, William? The village idiot?
I was going to say
Village idiot. Call me the village idiot, but man, it's location, 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 and it's gonna break my heart. And you start bringing up stuff like Asbury Park type stuff for here, and I say we sell the Wells Fargo building, take the money. And I'd like to thank Joe Lee for getting me thinking about this. I was in for a different conversation. But selling the Wells Fargo building and then making this building what we really need, if you look out 100 years, 200 years, the city of Stuart is always going to be even a little better than that freaking unbelievable courthouse building in Coral Gables. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but it's like it's the most amazing building we've ever seen. But this, for we the people, our hometown, to have our city hall in this spot, it's going to break my heart when that is not the case. Thank you.
I start with saying I somewhat agree with Frank.
I do too.
I never did want it to move from here, but we've had our issues, so I'm glad that Main Street is doing the study, and we have an opportunity to go and look at everything and look at our finances and see how things are going. We've slowly moved into that building, but we haven't done a lot of big infrastructure changes in there, I don't think. So there's always an opportunity. Let me just go back to the BIP. I'm sure that there's a schedule, and probably that's why it was up, that people can put in applications.
Yeah, it
And
just went
so-
out, I think, a
yeah.
couple of days ago, and I reposted it so people would see it.
So if we need Pinal to look at that, or if we need to look at the criteria and maybe talk to her and see if in the future, if we want to work on something to make some changes in that, so that the next time that project goes out, we can have it in another way. But definitely, unless we want her to present and say this is what's going out as the BIP. But I know that we've added $1 million, this, that, and a lot of things have happened in how matches and grants and things going. We've kind of maneuvered it and changed it over time. So if it needs to change again and we need to look at it, then that's something that we can certainly ask Pinal to either bring to us at a CRB meeting. But I'm sure the paperwork is gone for this time already, so.
I wasn't looking to change it, I was actually looking to complement it. So you have kind of two sections. You have for people who are really small businesses that can't come under that criteria, they don't have the $10,000 match, but offering something else. So it would be two programs. I'm not looking to change the one we have. I'm sure that helps a lot of people.
Well, okay, thank you. Confusion Corner, when Sam Emerson was our engineer, I talked to him about doing some of the things that we see DOT have on their big road, which they have the arrows and they're lighted, or you can see them at night. I asked about doing arrows so that people can know where to turn and where to go. People don't like that. I see that. But anything, Bonnie, I'll look at what you have, and whatever. Joe Capper is he's on call for us if we need to look at it or have him look at it for safety purposes. I've been hearing that we don't, over the years, that we don't have a high rate of accident at Confusion Corner Now apparently it's changing. It seems to be every day there's somebody driving down the railroad track as if it's a road. I'm not sure, maybe we need to put a big sign. There's a railroad track in front of you. Don't drive on it, cross over it. I don't know, but if I didn't realize that maybe we need to get chief to tell us what's going on with accident rates there. I didn't realize it was such a it was after you learn it, it's not offensive, but then in order to learn it, people may end up having accidents. But we need to figure out a traffic engineering way and a public relations way to get people to be able to just safely maneuver Confusion Corner. And I know it has that name, Confusion Corner. Will we ever be able to get rid of the confusion? But
Real quick. So if that is the case where Confusion Corner has become a total nightmare with lots of incidents compared to a few years ago, then I go to, well, what's different now? And then I'll look to my board member to the right, whose Christmas float pretty much said it all. All right, thank you.
So it sounds like there might be consensus to have a discussion item about Confusion Corner, at least to start figuring out where and if we need to do something for a future CRA/CRB joint meeting. Are there other comments from board members?
Mr. Mayor?
I can't hear you.
get a mic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Get a mic.
The proper function of government is protect the lives, liberty, and property of citizens, but not provide. This is something that I think of when I'm sitting as a CRB member and I'm about to give away somebody else's money to somebody else. It could quite literally be one business's tax money going to give funds to their competition. Okay, so I struggle with that as I sit there and listen. To take it further, to provide for some, the government must first take from others. Once granted this power, it becomes a mechanism for legalized plunder. Once this mechanism is in place, it becomes a highly coveted tool by others who wish to line their pockets with the taxes taken from other people. Everybody wants in on this take, and eventually it attracts outsiders, developers, while the locals are harvested for their taxes. This ultimately will increase rents, property values, which of course is the objective of the CRA. We want to really build this place up, and then it becomes nice and refurbished, which I kind of get it. You want to avoid slum and blight, but at what point do we say, okay, we're past the slum and blight phase, we've become a pretty nice place. Do we want to keep jacking property values up and then forcing? There's a business member I was speaking to this summer. He had to move his location in downtown Stuart to another spot because the rent went too high. He'd been here like for 26 years, he was telling me. And he gives a discount to locals. He gave me this little card. Oh, you're a local? Here's a 10% discount. Okay, but he didn't say it directly, but if I'm to understand him correctly, he was concerned that he was going to be priced out of the downtown Stuart area, which is where he had his business for 20-something years. So I just thought I'd want to bring that up, and it also comes back to this Congress critter, David Crockett, who had one of his constituents tell him it was all angry that he gave away taxpayer funds. He says, it's not your money to give. And that's kind of what I'm looking at in the CRB when these people come and ask, hey, I'm thinking, well, is it really my money? These people that have kicked in their taxes, is it my money to give away to these projects? Especially since we've kind of moved past the slum and blight phase for the most part. I get it, there's an argument to be made, but I just wanted to bring that all to your attention and really ask, how much longer do we really need the CRB or the CRA? It's here until, what, 2049, if I remember correct? and we have a great staff member who runs this. Maybe that's why we're so effective. We have great staff. So, and we have a great tax base. So something to think about maybe. Just saying. Thanks.
I think you could make a compelling argument just for discussion. Just for discussion. You know, the city of Stuart, Martin County, as far as I see it, like slow growth. They don't want their property taxes through the roof. They want things to be nice, but typically they prioritize things like public safety. And I think you could make a case. And I'll maybe cover your ears. I think you could make a case that, you know, because CRAs take money out of the general fund of both the city and the county, you could be sort of doing the opposite of all of those things. Yeah, you are trying to make areas nicer so that development comes in to increase the tax base, which increases everybody's taxes. You're making it harder to fund public safety and thereby making it more likely the taxes go up. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Will. Are there any other comments from board members? All right, no, everybody's good. Okay, seeing none, do we have any, if you just said placeholder for staff updates, is there any other comments? Sure.
Yeah, I did have one thing to say. And Will, I don't disagree on some of those things, but it is our job to do a nice balance. We need to, safety, I think, is the most important. We want to preserve the downtown that we have. And that is the reason I think that most of us are here. We're trying to make that balance happen. And that's for us to continue to do a great job. Thank you.
Because you said staff update, and maybe it's not a CRA, CRB thing, it might just be a regular city commission, but how are we doing on the Hamilton property? That's not for this meeting, that staff is gonna bring back something to us at some other point? Probably not in.
Yeah, we've not, it's not noticed to be discussed here today.
Right.
It's
but
ongoing.
It's not a CRB, CRA. It'll be a city commission item, right? If it's ever brought up.
Yeah, if it's going to be brought up, well, it's part of a CRA program.
Right,
But,
yeah.
You know,
It's
it
just
might
a staff
require city
update
commission action on a particular issue that's being raised by but it's ongoing. There has been no resolution to it, and trying to get an agreed scope of work that will continue with the.
Thank you, sir.
That was the latest. The scope of work needs to be signed, right?
That's been
Yeah.
going on.
It's got to be agreed to between the Hamilton. And
Anything else? All right, seeing no other business, this meeting's adjourned.